Welcome, dear guests, honorable speakers to Pavilion Indonesia. Today we'll be talking about innovation in ecosystem restoration. Ecosystem degradation and biodiversity threat are issues that not just local to Indonesia, but also become global concern. So on this session, we will share some strategies and best practices in ecosystem restoration. And this panel will also explore ways to strengthen partnership and encourage shared responsibilities among stakeholders. And we will also cover the technologies and tools that can significantly boost the ecosystem restoration. And to start with, I will invite our keynote speaker, Professor Dr. Satyawan Pudyatmoko. He's the Directorate General of Ecosystem Natural Resources Conservation, or KSDAE, which will be represented by Ms. Ami Nurwati. She's the Director of Ecosystem Restoration Management. To deliver a keynote, please. Pak Efran, mau aku yang manggil? Oh, okay. Okay, why don't we invite our Ms. Deputy from the Coordinating Ministry for Maritime and Investment Affairs Indonesia, Bu Deputy, Ibu Nani Hendiarti, to please, Bapak, pada saling ngalah. Okay, Pak Efransyah, please take a seat. You're going to be leading the session, but if you want me to call out all the speakers, I can do that for you. Call everybody, okay. Okay. Ms. Ami Nurwati, please come forward, and Ibu Nani as well. Of course, Head of Landscape Conservation, SSE Asia Pulp and Paper, Ibu Jasmine Dolok Saribu, and last but not least, the only gentleman on the speaker, among the speaker, Pak Agus Sari as the CEO Landscape Indonesia. And okay, one more from the IUCN. Mr. Charles Karangwa, he's the Global Head of Nature-Based Solutions. And please enjoy the discussion. Thank you.
Good afternoon, audience. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here and thank you for coming again to the Indonesia's Pavilion. We have had our own pre-consultation before coming up together. So we got consensus how we arrange ourselves. So if you don't mind, because Ibu Deputy Minister has some pressure, urgent bilateral meeting, if you don't mind, Ibu Nani first to deliver remarks, and then I'll call upon later on. Silakan, Bu Nani. Okay. Can we take picture?
Very good afternoon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Honorable Bapak Erfansyah. So thank you so much, Bapak, for this giving me the opportunity to speak first, and also distinguished speakers, Ibu Yasmin, Ibu Ami, Pak Agus, and Mr. Stewart. First of all, I would like to say thank you to Sinarmas, to Ibu. Then we have a very important session. So we talk about the ecosystem restoration. So this is a very, I mean, it's like keyword. It's very important topic. So as we know, the Indonesia is the third largest tropical country in the world. So together with Brazil and Congo DRC, we cover about 42% from the world tropical forest. So we have about 120 million hectares and also like about 63% of the cover of the compared to the land and all the Indonesian area. So therefore, Indonesia has to manage these forest resources sustainably by developing and implementing our national policy and program to address challenges faced by the forestry sector and also to, the impacts of climate change. So I say that ecosystem restoration is very important. Why? Because there are at least two main reasons. First, if we talk about the restoration, so it means that we make it from nothing become something, because we plant in the in the degraded area or in a potential area, then we know after some years then will be these plants will be possible to capture the carbon. So we call it the carbon capture. And this we can use for not only voluntary but also compliance market. So the compliant markets will be possible from the restoration ecosystem. And then also related, this is restoration word, but the ecosystem will be like important, because when we do something like restoration in this the same area, the one area, then will impact to the ecosystems. So this is the first. And the second one, specifically for Indonesia, we have archipelagic country, is also important because they not only about the mitigation, but also will give benefit for the adaptation. I think specifically if we see mangrove, for instance. So we are doing restoration, that means we make two programs in one, mitigation and adaptation. So Indonesia focused to restore some critical ecosystem, such as forest, mangrove, and peatland. The restoration conducted at the land level to balance ecological integrity and human well-being. Ecosystem restoration efforts are also closely related with the Indonesian NDC specifically from the Volu sector. So now I would like to mention, because it's a question for the governments, what is the policy that we already have, it also the program. So first we have several policy actually. So the like four at least policy. The first, I think we have the government regulation number 26 of the year 2020 on the forest rehabilitation. And also we have government regulation number 57, year 2016, regarding the protection and management of the peat ecosystem. And the third, we have presidential decree number 120 in the year and the year of 2020, because I remember exactly about the time. It's regarding the peatland and mangrove restoration agency. So from this, we have targeted is instruction by the president to restore 1.2 million hectare of the peatland and 600,000 hectare of the mangrove until 2024. And also we have government regulation number 23 and year 2021 is about forestry management that follow by the ministerial regulation number 8 and 2021 on the management and utilization of protection and production forests. So what we have done so far, this is all the, what we call it, the regulation. But from the regulation, we go to the implementation. So we have achieved, and then also we have started the implementation of that regulation, such as since 2016, Indonesia has restored peatland ecosystem in the consensus area about 3.6 million hectares, while in non-concession areas around 1.6 million hectares. So also in the mangrove, we have planted about more than, I think, 270 trees of the mangrove. That means about almost 90,000 hectares. Yeah, since I think the last 4 years. So in all provinces in Indonesia. So beside that, Indonesia also has granted 16 ecosystem restoration permit. We call it PBPH, ecosystem restoration, from 207 until 2021, which covering total area is about 621,000 hectares in 7 provinces. So there are 4 provinces in the Sumatra and another 3 provinces in Kalimantan. So this is a business license to restore degraded production forests to maintain biodiversity and ecosystem balance, important in increasing forest carbon stock. So I think the next I would like to mention only, this is the main homework for me to share with all the participants here. But the next was just to share to you, because I think we understand the importance of the innovation and technology. So we use a lot of remote sensing data, GIS, and also smartphone and drone for the monitoring system and also making the prediction. Here the Pak Rwanda, I think, is take a lead for this. And also later we can see the smart application, yeah, that can also use to help for the monitoring of all the restoration program. And the last, I think this is very important, that we use also weather modification technology to control forest and land forest fire since 2015. So the TMC, we call TMC operation, have been further enhanced since 2020 by involving more parties in the regular weather modification activities. So using this technology, you can see, even this year, we have El Nino, means we face a high risk of the forest fire, but in fact we can keep this less. So the result is very good. So we can see the result from this technology. And the next, I think, is very brief. The involvement of the community, I think, is also the key, especially for the restoration. That means not only planting, but also to maintain the plants can grow. So I think this is the key, and we should involve the community in the process. And the last, I think, this is just like how to measure the impact. So we see here the ecosystem restoration is a complex issue, but we can use the calculate annual. We call it EKLH, means Environment Quality Index, to measure condition of our environment. And also I think the important here that we need the data in detail and higher resolution of the data. So I think the last one more, we can see that the ecosystem restoration, this is question, cost or investment. So we have some opportunity that through the ecosystem restoration can bring also benefit, for instance, from the carbon that we call actually nature-based solution, or we say also ecological based approach. This is because of the approach is based on the ecological benefit. I think the important also things that I would like to mention here, the multilateral funding mechanism. So we use also, we need to consider and maybe to apply the blended finance also to for the ecosystem restoration program, because we have so big forest. So thank you so much for the opportunity. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Terima kasih Ibu Neni Andiarti for highlighting the policy and regulation, as well some encouragement about the way we go forward with ecosystem restorations. Since you need to leave, Ibu Nani, please feel free anytime, yeah. Okay. Yeah. And in the absence of Ibu Nani, may I call upon Pak Haji Siroj to come forward to stand in. Thank you. Well, the next one, I think we would expect a message from DG of KSDAE, DG Conservation. And can I request Ibu Ami to deliver the message? It's a keynote actually.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and speakers. My name is Ami. Now I'm the Director of Ecosystem Management and Restoration, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Director General of Natural Resources and Ecosystem Conservation, who unfortunately cannot attend this event. Thank you for this invitation. This is an important event that we can share strategies and best practices in ecosystem restoration, especially from Indonesia point of view. Indonesia is known to be a global biodiversity hotspot, characterized by rich ecosystem, species, and genetic diversity. It is the second mega biodiversity country in the world after Brazil. To protect those biodiversity hotspots, Indonesia has designated 560 conservation forest areas, covering an area of 27 million hectares. Also, there are at least 43 million hectares areas important for biodiversity outside of conservation forest area. However, the management of these areas cannot be separated from its various problems and challenges. One of the important problems is the presence of areas inside conservation forest area that are damaged, not only from natural causes, but also from human disturbance that need to be restored. For that reason, Indonesia has provided rules and regulation in terms of ecosystem restoration in conservation forest area. From 2020 to 2023, the government of Indonesia has restored ecosystem in conservation forest area, covering an area of more or less 175,000 hectares. Ecosystem restoration aims to fully restore the integrity of the ecosystem back to its original level or condition, or to a certain desired future condition in accordance with the objectives of the conservation forest area management. These conditions are based on the ecosystem reference of each conservation forest area. The type of plants introduced and planted also have to be native to the conservation forest area. This means that ecosystem restoration is not only planting trees, but also aim to restore ecosystem function and services. Ecosystem restoration will also contribute to the efforts of reducing greenhouse gas emission through increase of carbon stocks that will support the Indonesia national determined contribution through the Follow Net Sink 2030. As an example, the restoration of mangrove ecosystem in the West Bali National Park area has succeeded in restoring the habitat of Curik Bali by planting native and endemic types of mangrove. Furthermore, ecosystem restoration activities are carried out in collaboration with local communities in every step since the planning through the planting and maintenance processes. Ecosystem restoration and conservation activities in Indonesia involve various stakeholders. Private sectors in one of them. Private sectors support ecosystem restoration in conservation forest area directly through various schemes including watershed rehabilitation scheme and corporate social responsibility fund. Private sectors may also support ecosystem restoration through capacity building for local communities and technical staff. A good example to private sector and community involvement in ecosystem restoration is restoration of Pavilion Wildlife Reserve in Yogyakarta. Pavillion's restoration was initiated by Sumitomo Corporation partnering with local communities. Since 2005, there have been a significant progress of the restoration of Pavilion as seen in the picture. Besides restoration, private sectors may also contribute in the protection of areas important for biodiversity outside of conservation forest area, such as high conservation value area and wildlife corridor. The Bukit 30 landscape in Jambi, an example of areas important for the biodiversity outside of conservation forest area, in this case, is the home range of Sumatra's elephant. Private sector affected by the home range of Sumatra elephant can contribute, for example, by creating a special wildlife monitoring team together with local conservation authorities. To summarize, and as a closing statement, ecosystem restoration and conservation activities involve various stakeholders. And for that reason, the government always welcome private sectors and other organizations to support national goals, especially in restoration and conservation refers to Indonesia regulation. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Audience, if you observe with me, there are a few things pop up here. First is the quite ideal expectation how ecosystem restoration should be defined. And one of them, biodiversity, has to be included. And ecosystem service has to function. So apparently restoration have some interpretation. and we are here at the session of innovation. I have a few eminent speakers here. I will start first to dig up the story from APP. What have you been doing so far? What is the lesson, important lesson generated here? And then, is there any specific methodology that you strictly follow? And then, after that, I would like to brainstorm the elements of your description with Agusari from Landscape, and then from my dear friend from IUCN, maybe we can have another quite far distance restoration examples. So, gentlemen, can you be relaxed? The idea here is to inspire the audience on how we move forward. So there is no absolute right or wrong here. But unless you try, unless we try, and we learn from our mistakes, we will be never progressing. So that is the reason why here. Please just try to relax. We have 80 minutes, and I promise you to be an entertaining, if you attentively follow, an entertaining meeting. So with this, can I invite Jasmine Dolok Saribu, the head of landscape conservation, to tell us the story, methodology, and lesson learned for what have been doing so far. Go ahead.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor for me to meet you all here. APP Group is the largest pulp and paper manufacturer, and its plantation produce paper, packaging, and tissue that marketed in more than 150 countries over 6 continents. Environmental, social, and governance principles become our core business strategy, where Sustainability Roadmap Vision 2030 guides us to fulfilling our commitment on it, consisting of 3 main pillars, that is to protect the environment, including its biodiversity, to support our target for the less carbon product, care and support our employees, including community, and implement it in good governance. And in this SRV 2030, we already mapped our contribution towards the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Today, I would like to bring the focus more to the forest protection and also the forest restoration. We set aside about 600,000 hectares as a protected area, where in 2015, we conducted an initial baseline assessment. It is conducted by the third party, and the result was 64% of the area was in a good condition. Doing restoration is our goals, and then since then, we have achieved about 84% of the area was in a good condition by end of 2022. And then how we measure the good condition on the restoration? Well, we dealt with nature and also ecosystem, where a lot of possibility and also opportunity really depend on its environment and how to manage it to achieve our goals. Several approach and also methodology that we can found that acceptable as a part of the standard and based on land and also soil type. As a part of our baseline, we segregated our vegetation stratification as a reference for the successful of restoration. We have 4 stratification to identify the quality of the forest cover. And APP has invested to support the restoration program to establish the standard of the restoration with the collaboration with agency from the Ministry of Environment, which has produced 5 books on restoration strategy and technique in the different type of ecosystem, which is the freshwater with soil marine clay. The second one is the mixed forest with dry land, peatland, riparian, and also mangrove. Conducting national and international on the restoration methodology, we continue to find the best management practice for us, and then we found that this Society for Ecological Restoration is quite suitable for our situation. There are 6 phases, that is reduce, improve, initiative, partially restore, and fully restore, with the 4 stages of restorative practices, that is reduce, remediation, rehabilitate, and also ecological restoration. Using this framework, APP has reformulated and mapped out our restoration effort into this methodology. If you see on this slide, it is around 75% already in the last 2 phases. And we also need to understand that restoration is not something instant. It might take years to happen to become the forest that we expected to be. However, we have to acknowledge that some indicators are needed to measure the success of restoration. Let me explain in detail in 3 stages. For this phase, it is the reduce impact. This phase is talking about reduce the impact of ecosystem damage by the human activities. We include them in this process, and for example, is APP have the collaborative conservation management that has been in place at the moment. And for these 3 phases in the second stage is to improve the understanding of restoration, as well as to ensure the availability of budget to do the restoration. And also for the remediation and rehabilitation, the effort to restore the function of degraded land or area, APP has implemented with the direct intervention for the planting native species and also enrichment. For the last slide from my presentation, this is about the partially and fully recovery. The condition where we can see that the nature has starting to show the ecological function. So for example, we have monitor the endangered species of trees and also the movement of the animal. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Jasmine, I may come back to you with the questions of the interim indicators, because you mentioned it will take years. So in the meantime, what are the parameters we are going to refer to in order to declare that we are indeed progressing? Well, can I consult expert here? My old friend, Pa Agustari. What is your first reaction to this initiative, and what kind of restoration do you have in mind?
Yes, thank you very much, Pak Efransa, and good afternoon, friends, ladies and gentlemen. This is a very, very difficult question. First is that I think I'm quite impressed. Let me tell you first that I think what APP has done is very, very good, and it actually would contribute to the progress in rehabilitating the landscape, ensuring that ecosystem services are functional again and everything. But I would like to actually refer what has been achieved there with the earlier, I think the earlier definition about restoration, which says that it needs to actually return the landscape into its original condition. And to be perfectly honest, I'm not sure that whether that is indeed attainable or not. Yeah, karena once you turn a primary forest into a secondary forest, you will never reach, the condition of a primary forest entirely. So I think there are two things that can be done here. I think one is to push IPP again to go all the way to get the landscape to be restored into its original condition, or we need to actually be a little bit more realistic and put together indicators that make sense, that is robust enough to ensure that the ecological function of the landscape gets to work again, and then some biodiversity indicators are acceptable scientifically. Some other ecosystem services like water catchment and others. And if you're talking about ecosystem, an ecosystem, it is actually a complex web of things, yeah, of plants, of animals, of others, and we cannot really say that just because one indicator is progressing, that means that we are restoring. Yeah, it is a restoration of the entire function of a landscape ecologically, and that is not easy to achieve, even if and when it has not achieved its original condition. Yeah. So that's of course a challenge, how we can define restoration, to what extent restoration is successful. And I would actually be quite interested to hear IUCN's views on this, because of course IUCN has the authority at least to work on this definition of restoration. And then innovation. I think we have seen that we are innovating enough to to have not only mechanisms but also institutional, financial, and technological innovation in place to ensure that we can get to where we want to be. In terms of mechanisms, we have all kinds of mechanism to restore ecosystems. We also have institutional and financial innovations, including, for example, carbon markets, biodiversity markets, ecosystem services market, all kinds of things that we can always employ. I'm not promoting only carbon market as the only solutions, because there are so many ways to do that, and not only markets, of course. There are non-market solutions that we could also innovate with. Technologically, we have satellite imagery that is already in some cases free, but at least quite attainable. And then we can actually have a very, very good monitoring methodology that is also transparent and accessible by practically everybody. We would be able to also put like, Internet of Things that would monitor the progress of the ecosystem restorations, camera traps. I'm trying to be louder than the voice behind me. That kind of things, And for peatlands, for example, we already have been able to monitor technologically, the health of the soil. And of course, there are all other information that in the past would have been expensive to access, but now it's almost free. And a combination of all that would allow us to transparently show that we are indeed progressing. And my concern is progressing much more than achieving, because we are actually going towards the right direction. And that's important to me as much as achieving something. Yeah. Makasih banyak.
Thank you, Pak Agustari. It's quite inspiring, yeah. But at the same time, you enlarge the complexity of the issues. So I think it's very timely to visit our IUCN expert. And IUCN here is expected to be the guru to enlighten us on some of these scientific aspects. And I would appreciate if you can also share some practical experience here and there. Thank you. Charles.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And let me try to read my Salamat Sor, ladies and gentlemen. So I've just tried, right? I'm very pleased to be here, and on behalf of Stuart Magnus, who initially was supposed to be delivering this message to you, but is not yet here for reasons of health. We hopefully is going to be here after 2 days or so. But yeah, we want to commend and appreciate the leadership of Indonesia on this particular topic discussion. Recalling that Indonesia hosted in 2017 a regional ministerial meeting for Asia, where of course APP also expressed their commitment as the leading private company to restore more than 300,000 hectares of degraded lands and forests and the likes. So I want to commend that leadership, and looking forward to continue working together. So my talk would exactly try to share where we are globally on this particular topic, and what is probably the demand, how are we progressing in terms of supply and responding to this demand, what is the possible best framework we need, etc. But and this discussion here is within a bigger global question, and what you have see on the screen is what we call a world of opportunity map. We could say a world of problem, because we are talking about opportunities for restoration, but let's look at it as an opportunity to take action. So we are talking about huge numbers, big numbers, nearly 800 million in Africa. We are talking about Asia alone, more than 500 million hectares of available land or available opportunities that we could restore. And this is a big demand, right, if we are to look at it as a call to action. And today we saw a couple of best practices and examples in Indonesia, but we are talking about a huge call for action globally to do some of this action at the global level. But when we start talking about restoration, I just want to demystify a couple of things here. More trees will not necessarily bring society the full range of benefits natural lands provide. So we are not talking about plantations here. We need to be very, very careful because some of indigenous people whom we work very closely with will come and challenge us and say, come on, hang on a second. For us, restoration means bringing back a full range of ecosystem services. Our food, our water, our fresh air, our biodiversity, our closest medicinal plants, just to name a few. So it's not just about the amount of trees we plant. It's about how much ecosystem services are able to bring back. And in 2011, the whole global movement took a decision to restore 150 million. And Indonesia is the leader in that, in particular, and we are very much happy to see that leadership in the Asian region. But this grown into an interesting commitment to 350 million with the New York Declaration on Forest in 2014, which then means we are talking about probably 3 million, but look at the bigger picture on 350 million by 2030, which we need to achieve. So globally, we are seeing a big uptake. So if you look at countries in Asia and Central Asia and Asia alone, we are talking about quite a good number of leading countries that have made and expressed big commitments to restore. But it's not only Asia. We are talking about Africa as well. More than 29, 30 countries that are committed to this particular effort to restore. And Europe, we are talking about Americas, etc. So it's really not only one part of the world. There's a movement behind this. We are not alone, right? It's not only one country. So it's encouraging to see that political will to make this happen. And there are many other organizations behind this. So it's not only IUCN that is talking about this. There's a global partnership of government, of NGOs, of indigenous people organizations, of research and academia that are behind the ecosystem restoration, especially with the launch of the decade of ecosystem restoration, which we are in. We have many partners who are there to support and clarify some of these pending questions. But let's go to this particular topic, speaks to where we are today. We are the COP28. Forest and ecosystem restoration contributes significantly to the UNCCC goals, the Paris Agreement on reducing emissions, but also making our communities adaptive, more adaptation. We have all the 3 Rio Conventions. So ecosystem restoration is not for one, it's for all of these Rio Conventions. But also it's for sustainable development goals because we are able to see all these services coming in. Yeah, but the question of our friend on what are we talking about? And I want to really come back to this because we are talking about a long-term process of regaining that ecological functionality. That's why the cost of destroying is very small. You can easily destroy overnight a forest, but the cost of restoring will take us a longer time, probably generations, to bring that small river sources that used to be there, to stop that big erosion of topsoil that was there before, to bring back those beautiful species of biodiversity, animals and plants, etc. So it's really a wide scale and big mosaic restoration. It's not only about forest. It's multiple land use. It's agriculture. It's rangelands. It's cities. It's urban. It's wetlands. That all needs to be looked at together. And some of the restoration potential or benefits includes, of course, all what you know here, but also on the screen. This process helps us to bring back our biodiversity, reduce risks, stabilizing our soils, just to name a few. So it's really about a lot of benefits. And I think it's a nice one. And we asked a number of questions to demystify this. It's things that have already been happening for many years. We are talking about options of improving plantations. We are talking about options of assisted regeneration, letting the nature regenerate itself, etc. But also agroforestry systems across and rangeland restoration. So it's really a range of things that we can talk about here. But the aim of this ecosystem restoration, as I said earlier, is really to return that. And that particular triangle talks about 3 cascaded levels of things. You are talking about a site, a small landscape, but also you are talking about individual land use for different services. And you are talking about a bigger landscape that provide those ecosystem services. So it's very important to realize how much action at a small scale can, within many triple scales, can transform a big landscape, a big country, a big region, a big continent, the whole world as well. So it's very important to look at that and how these services will flow from supporting services to provisioning to regulating services. I'm almost closing, and I want to come back to this particular one, which I like very much. It's basically also how we look at different land uses. And that's where, as you can see on the map, plantations is one side of the story, but it's not a full landscape restoration. It's not a full ecosystem part. You need to look at the bigger approach and bigger concept to restore these services. And then, of course, IUCN have been working on a number of tools, and I've put them in here, including providing some of the science approaches. But not only that, informing policy and looking at how does this come together within a national level. And one of the tools we have been deploying across countries is what we call restoration opportunities assessment. Responding to questions like, where is restoration socially, economically feasible? What type of restoration? What are financial return on that investment? The economics behind this. But also, what are other stakeholders in there? What is the role of them? What is the role of government, the role of indigenous people, private sector, but also other things. So this tool is available for use. But not only that, we have been thinking about, we need to be accountable. When a government says we are going to restore 10 million hectares, we need accountability. So there was already an effort to develop a restoration barometer tool, which helps to look at a number of action-related indicators, but also impact-related, area under restoration. We call it under restoration because it takes a long time to restore that. But also the climate impact, the biodiversity, the economic return on that investment, number of jobs created from restoration. And we start talking about this very specific impact evaluation. But also in terms of action, we look at how much investment is going into that. So this is also online, and it's a variable open tool, which if interested, you can absolutely use. And then finally, there's a range of already existing tools, not only from IUCN, but also from other partners. But IUCN have done a lot of work on this particular topic to guide, to provide frameworks, to provide context-specific information, but also linking this to economic development, specific ecosystems, specific Rio conventions, that we can tap into, and this is also available. And in Asia in particular, we are very privileged that we are going to be leading the Indo-Malaya critical forest biome from JEF8, which we are looking forward to absolutely work with all of you. And I will close with 3 major points. Ecosystem restoration require 3 major interlinked things, drivers. One is the political will. There's a need for a political will to drive, to change, to invest. Second, it takes a movement. In my language, we say, it takes a village to raise a child. If you want to raise a child alone, the child will be in a neighborhood next day. So the whole village have to play a role to raise the child together. And it's like this question of ecosystem restoration. Multiple partners, sector coordination and collaboration. We have seen a lot of silos between institutions, which is driving deforestation and forest loss. Infrastructure will say, so we need a road. Put it in a beautiful indigenous forest. Agriculture needs production. We need to take these 10 hectares for agriculture. And of course, wetland will suffer and other critical ecosystems, but cross-sectoral coordination is very key. And I think there is no secret anymore. There's no rocket science. If we don't work together at national level, we destroy things together and suffer together and perish together. So we need that cross-sectoral. And then finally, I'm an economist and I never end my talk without talking about the financing and economics of these things. One problem which was asked earlier is investing in ecosystem restoration a cost or its investment. It can still be an investment cost. But let me think about this. I come from a very mountainous country. We call it a country of 1,000 hills. Landslide and flooding have worked together to destroy bridges, roads, housing, etc. The cost of repairing and restoring and rebuilding that has been extremely huge than protecting those hills. If you had decided to invest in protecting the hills, the ecosystem, restoring that, I think we wouldn't have invested billions of dollars in building roads and bridge. Sometime hard even to mobilize those investments. Therefore, I believe financing ecosystem restoration, it's an investment. It's a foundation for other development in our modeling. So I would end from there and absolutely looking forward to continue working with you on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you very much. You have loaded us with so many things, including those guidelines. I hope they are still available. Huh? Are they still available online? On the web? Yeah, thank you very much. So my intention, if there is no violence objections from you, is to give the second round. And I go back to Yasmin first, because I have questions about the indicators, and is there any supplementary things that you would like to share with us? And thereafter, Pak Agusari will help me to revisit the issue, and then we will go from there. Before proceeding, let me recognize my old friend Faisal Paris, specialist in pit, was my long-time friends in Malaysia. So please, you need to contribute. So when it comes to the floor, I will earmark you. Is there any, you want to have questions? Now, please go ahead.
Sorry, my name is Eric from MOEF. Okay, my name is Eric from Ministry of Environment and Forestry, Indonesia. I have some question for Ibu Jasmine and Mr. Charles. The first time is I'd like to ask to Ibu Jasmine. Innovation in ecosystem restoration is very good explanation based on your presentation. Yeah? My question is how to, we have to at least two kind of the instrument for environmental and forestry. The first one is EIA, Environmental Impact Assessment, and also the reporting. And the second one is initial pollinating, 2030. So my question is how to integrate your initiative in ecosystem restoration into the EIA and the reporting and also initial pollinating.
Noted, noted. Okay. How about for Charles?
For Charles is the NBS, or ecosystem-based approach is very, very nature-based solution. My question is how to integrate the nature-based solution into the environmental assessment, both from the landscape level, the strategic environmental assessment, to the site level, the environmental impact assessment. And the second question is, do you have a best practices here? The best practice, the integration between the NBS into the strategic environmental assessment and also EIA, the best practice.
Okay.
And then how to shift or change the restoration initiative from the cost center to the profit center.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the last part is very important. I think we go to share this in our second round. The matter of cost and investment is always something rings the bell all the time. So please go ahead, Ibu Jasmine.
Thank you, Pak. Thank you, Pak Sher. Pak Eric, thank you, Pak Eric, for the question. Okay, for environmental impact assessment, we conduct the environmental impact assessment in the beginning when we want to have the license for the concession. So after that, as I mentioned previously that we already have the sustainability roadmap vision, but before that, we already conducted the assessment for the high conservation value forest and also the high carbon stock in our area. So now what we are doing, we are in the progress to do, we are making like the rancangan pemantauan and implementation, Pak, but it is more combined, not just in the environmental impact assessment, but also to combine with all the aspect that has been identified in the high conservation assessment. So we put that, what is the indicator there, and then what is the monitoring result yearly. It is right now that we are doing, and then we are planning by next year, when we are submitting the report for the RKL, RPL, we will include this on that, Pak. Because previously might be the biodiversity aspect is only a little sentence there, but in the future, next year, we are planning next year, it will be included with the what we are monitor on that, on the area. So we integrate the biodiversity monitoring and also the monitoring for we have the integrated sustainable forest management plan. So we integrate all of them into one report, and this report, the summary will be included on the RKL RPL report that we will submit it every year to the Ministry of Environment and also relevant stakeholder.
How about follow net sing that just touch upon?
Of course, the impact of the restoration at the end will impact to the how we can achieve the target for Indonesia, Pak.
Thank you. I think Charles has to respond first, and then we go to Pak Agusari. Then I will call upon Faisal Paris to have a magic words.
Thank you. I think that's absolutely $1 million questions. But I think I will also commend your expertise because you could link easily a couple of dots there. Let me start from the nature-based solutions question. I think the science and the environmental experts are very good at coning and developing new concepts and new all the time. And I don't want us to get lost into semantics of concepts, which will take us another time to accelerate our action. But nature-based solutions came in to help bring actions together that could then address society challenges. And personally look at nature-based solution as an umbrella of different approaches. So these ecosystem-based approaches, forest landscape restoration or ecosystem restoration, ecosystem-based adaptation, ecosystem-based management, community-based adaptation, just to name a few. So all these, when they are together, they are solutions that embark or strongly build on nature capacity to solve or address a challenge. So I wanted to put that there. And personally, I believe what we talked about today, if well done, so removing monoculture, it will be nature-based solutions. The only key condition for it to be, including many other criteria, is to make sure that there is a biodiversity net gain. So you can address or tick all the boxes, right, with the plantation, with carbon, but if you can demonstrate the regaining that biodiversity aspect, we will struggle to call it a nature-based solution, because when we start talking about nature, you are talking about biodiversity value as well. So I wanted to say that I think there's a whole pieces coming together on that one. Now, and the definition of nature-based solution is, of course, actions. So it's not one, it's actions to restore, protect, sustainably manage, conserve natural or modified ecosystems, so degraded non-degraded, intact, non-intact. So there's those interlinked aspects which makes it a nature-based solutions. Now let me go to the second. I think and I'm not an expert in environmental impact assessment at all, but I believe assessing the impact, and I want to also say some of the historical mistake private sector and some other people have made is just to tick boxes and then do it as a book and compliance, but there's no essence of willingness to change and do it better. We saw that historically in many companies. And I think when you start looking at the cascaded benefits from nature-based solutions, which is beyond just climate or biodiversity, but also economic jobs, food security, etc., then the environmental impact goes beyond looking at one single species of biodiversity. Because that's the metrics. We say, oh, is there a red-listed species in this area? If it's there, it's red flag. But you don't look at how much it's going to affect the impacts of water quality in 10 kilometers away or 50 kilometers away. So I think as we talk about this, we need to start bringing all these pieces together, looking at nature as an infrastructure that can help us address problems. And whatever decision we take to invest or to do an infrastructure on nature, on an ecosystem, think about the impact it's going to have today, but also in 10 years, in 20 years, for you today, but also for your grandchildren. I think that would probably be the best way to look at that. So I think I will stop there because there's a question on the cost, etc.
But Charles, if you put this under the context of global framework on biodiversity, what path that you're going to take to make it practical?
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I think I like the global biodiversity framework because all the targets are very interlinked. But I want just to bring a couple of targets which specifically targets the ecosystems. And I personally believe that target, we have, of course, 30 by 30, which is protecting but also increasing the targeted of ecosystem that is protected and restored and sustainably managed. But also we have other indicators there which help us to not look at one single side of the story, but look at it in an integrated way. And when I talk about nature-based solutions, I also look at how does it address some of these global biodiversity framework targets. And ecosystem restoration targets generally, and the decade of ecosystem, they are all linked with the global biodiversity framework.
Let us pause there. I go back to Yasmin with some extra information. Yes.
Okay. The question regarding the indicator, what kind of indicator that we have. So with the new formula for our restoration that we are doing at the moment, so we are doing the restoration based on project or site. So we will look at what is the site condition. So we will find out the information previously. What is the ecosystem there? What is the indicator that we can see later on in this area? So all our area for the restoration might be different, Pak. So this area might be the ecosystem. For example, it is peatland. But it is already, for example, it is ex-burn, it is become a marine clay. So if we want to bring it back into a peatland, it might take 1,000 years might be. So what kind of indicator that we can see, at least the ecological function come back. And then we can see, for example, the animal come back. What kind of trees that can be.
Okay, I see your points. Okay. Pak Agustari, 2 minutes. Do you have solution for everything?
In 2 minutes? Of course. First though, I'm I'm intrigued by both Bu Yasmin and Charles about indicators here. I think that is a very, very important piece in ensuring that we know that we are going towards the right direction. There are at least 4 things I'd like to see because there are many standards, many sets of indicators that are currently offered in the world. But the first, I think we'd like to ensure that there's integrity and robustness.
Robert?
Robustness, yeah, to at least to avoid greenwashing. People tend to sometimes when there is no robustness, they just claim that they have done restoration, but they have not, for example. And it needs to be measurable because it needs to be robust. Second is transparency. Everyone in the world can scrutinize. Third, equity and fair benefits, including especially for the local community. And 4 is that the indicators are actually continuously improved through participatory process so that the benefits are also defined collectively, not by the stakeholders, not only by the main implementers. Now, just a little bit on cost to benefit, I'd like to say it from cost to benefit rather than to profit, yeah, because it may not necessarily be profit. I would like to actually push on the landscape approach. It needs to be a balance of production and protection, increasing productivity, and reducing ecosystem disruption in doing so in a harmonized manner. Second is that we need to be able to monetize the ecosystem benefits. And there are so many ways to do it. And one of which is what I would call ecosystem services pricing. We don't only need carbon pricing, we need biodiversity pricing, we need water pricing, we need food pricing, we need all kinds of environmental service pricing that shows the real cost and the real benefit of restoration. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
2 minutes, it's
Thank you
solved,
very
right?
Last 1 minute from my old friend Faisal. Please don't open the Pandora box. We are about seeking an encouragement that this restoration is feasible, and we already define the complexity, the scope, and challenge involved. You want to use my mic?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Very good to be back here in Indonesia, at home in Indonesia Pavilion again. Thank you, Pak Franja. So just 1 minute, the key thing. I mean, from my perspective, I'm Faisal Parish Global Environment Center, and working with the ASEAN Secretariat to develop the ASEAN Investment Framework for Haze-Free Land Management, which is trying to take some of the best practices that we can see in Indonesia of multi-stakeholder partnership in working together. And I think that's going to be the critical thing for ecosystem restoration. It cannot be this little patch here or this little patch here, different organizations to work together. Conservation organizations, production sector, agriculture sector, everyone in the landscape working together, and only then can achieve the long-term goals. In Indonesia, a great amount of progress in the last 5 years, particularly on re-wetting, improving water management in peatlands, but to really restore the peatland ecosystem, you have to look at the whole peatland hydrological unit, the whole system together. And I think that experience, good experience, starting in Indonesia, needs to be applied elsewhere in the region and internationally. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Faisal. I think you helped me to wrap up the whole idea here. And we are towards the end. I think it's the party time is coming. So we are about to adjourn. I'm trying to do my best, but if Pak Siraj would like to have a closing words, you want to do that? Yes, please do.
Terima kasih. I don't have much to add, but but perhaps more on the international landscape, Pak.
Okay.
Because every country now is trying to become leader or champion in the forestry, cooperation in forestry, Pak. So we have to be very careful because, like Indonesia, we have initiated the IBC, the Indonesia, Brazil, Democratic Republic of Congo. We are the forest power of 42% forestry in the world, but then Brazil also, they have this Amazon Cooperation Treaty. They try to become leader in forestry cooperation, and Republic of Congo, they want to establish three basins cooperation. Even UAE just launched cooperation in forestry, invited Indonesia as well, and in Singapore. So we need to be very careful because they are vying to become leader or champions in forestry. So we need to scrutinize the cooperation offered in this initiative. Terima kasih, Pak.
Thank you, Pak Haji Siraj. Is there any burning questions from the one? Please, this is the last one. Do I recognize you? Yes.
Thank you, Pak Efran. Timur Manurung from Auriga. My experience in pulping in restoration in Indonesia, actually, we do not need quite, let's say, very big titles. As long as the soil is still there, just protect the area, the forest will be out naturally. Yeah, so that's the thing in Indonesia. The problem in restoration in Indonesia many times is putting or planting in very 1 meter times 1 meter or 3 meters. It's empty forest basically. So we do not need that in Indonesia. But then my question to the panelists is to the IUCN, because at the moment in Indonesia is we see that many spiking of mining area, mean post mining or after mining. Is there any example of to restore in nature-based solution concept? Because as I visit, for example, in one post-nickel mining area, 6 years after the mining, it is still difficult to regrow the timbers, the seeds.
Thank you, Pak Timur. You have a quick response to this?
Well, I think I would be happy to take that question with him, but we do have also best practice where mining quarries or abandoned mining area have been successfully restored. But remember what I said earlier. You can easily modify ecosystem, but it will cost you a lot to repair and restore that. And sometime when we do cost-benefit analysis, when we are going to embark on a big mining, we don't realize what it will cost us in restoring that. I would think we need to put that into the equation when we take decision, both at policy level, but also private sector level. I'm enjoying these benefits of mining this, whatever mineral, but what will it cost us as a country to rehabilitate that? And if it's even higher, beyond and that cost has to include all the ecosystem services that my friends here mentioned. We may then make a different decision. I have a small example. One day, an expert came and told our president, I come from a country called Rwanda, that we have found oil in the Volcanoes National Park, and we are going to start exploration. Okay, they commissioned economic analysis. The immediate return on investment for mining was very high. But for 25 years, for 100 years generation, the president said, we are not going for that. We will protect our park, our Volcanoes National Park, than mining that. So I think that is where policy meets investment decision to look into both long-term benefits of whatever decision we take.
Thank you, Charles. I think you are very knowledgeable. I'm afraid we're running out of time. So I have to pause here, otherwise they will remove us by force. So thank you very much. I'm trying to do my best, I think it's quite lively. It's quite lively, and then we learn a lot of things. Thank you, and my apology if any oversight. Thank you so much. Let's give big applause to my eminent speaker. Thank you. Terima kasih. Thank you very much, Efransha. I will see you again.